Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. You can't have no hip hop sample song night and not play some James Brown. Of course, you got the Vapors in there and all kinds of stuff. Marcus J. Ain't no half stepping. Definitely glad you folks are staying with us as we broadcast live from the den of LegacyInternetRadio.com, the flagship show. Broadcasting live on MixLR, Shoutcast, Winamp, Loud City, all of these different venues that you can get a hold of our show. Marcus J. and I Step with Carlton Banks and Miss Tony. Stay with us. We're going to go to about 9:15 tonight. And I'm pretty sure we're not going to go to 10:20 like we did last week. So definitely glad that you guys stay with us as long as we go. We don't have no sports. We don't have nothing good to watch on TV. Under the Dome is good, y'all. We know it comes on at 9 o'clock. Just DVR the first 15 minutes, and then we can have you go back to it. All right. Led off the last segment, or I ended the last segment by saying that I was going to ask a question about religion. There's been a new poll that has come out that says many Americans say that non-religious people are bad for America, even though those people, of which I am a part of, those numbers are rising. According to a new Pew survey, 48% of American adults think that the rising number of Americans that don't identify with any religious groups or nuns is what some of us are called. I actually prefer the term agnostic, but I digress. But people think that it's bad for our country and society. However, the Pew Forum on Religion and Public Life states that 39% of adult Americans don't seem to think that it makes that much of a difference to a society, that more and more people are becoming non-religious. Now, another 11% think that the decline in religion is a good thing, according to the U.S., according to Pew. Pew also states that 78% of white evangelical Protestants think that non-religious trend will harm the country, and 4% think that it's a good thing. Also, according to the data of those adults who are not affiliated with any religion, only 24% of them say that it's a good thing, and 19% say that it's bad. About 55% of American adults who are unaffiliated with any religious organization think that it doesn't make much difference to the country one way or the other. Now, I think I've set it up quite a bit. I'm getting this from allchristiannews.com, which I think they always have a lot of very good and interesting things to say with regards to religion. We've gotten a lot of good stories from there, and I kind of check them out from time to time to see if we can get it. The last thing I'll say about this, according to this report, the number of respondents that said that they were Protestant in 2007 dropped from 53% to 48% in 2010, which of course amounts to a pretty nice drop there, which also speaks to the essence of what the survey is saying. So, Tony, I'm gonna come to you with this one first. Many Americans say that non-religious people are bad for America, even though those numbers are rising. What's your thoughts when you hear a survey like this? What's your thoughts when you hear that concept, even before you hear the numbers?
I just think that people are more open-minded now than they used to be, and before it was kind of like traditional. Your family, your parents were Christians or your parents were Catholic or Protestant or what have you. So you felt like you had to be. But now just times have changed so much, and people are starting to be more accepting of certain things, and just again more open-minded, so people don't feel like they need to identify with one religious group or another. You can kind of believe what you want to believe and not have to say I'm a Catholic, and just live your life the way that you want to and not have to identify with somebody. Labels, we're stuck on labels, that's what it is.
Carlton Banks, what's your thoughts?
I think the biggest thing is the fact you see a lot of things that are happening, and people are questioning faith, questioning religion, and they're going to say to themselves, why is this such and such thing happening and all that, but then in the same sentence they'll go and say thank you Jesus after something helps them or avoids hurting them. So it's all in your perception and how you're willing to accept how much of a problem you can take, and then in turn, where is your faith? How strong is your faith in everything that you say and do about it?
I look at it like this. I mean, I know that a lot of the people that are close to me had issues with me when I came out of the closet, because that's almost what it felt like when I decided that I would go public with my outward rejection of religion. And I thought that it would be appropriate for us to discuss this on this show, because I am an agnostic. I am someone who does not align myself with a particular religion. So I guess people like me are the essence of what the survey was about. I grew up a Baptist. I grew up going to church every Sunday. I grew up going to Sunday school. I graduated from a Catholic high school. I ended up going to a Baptist college. All of those things is part of what my experience was growing up. However, to kind of piggyback on what you said, Tony, when you mentioned that, you have a lot of information now, and you have a whole lot of thought process, and the things that I have experienced has changed my thought process, and I know that many people are very educated that still practice a religion. So I'm not saying that, only smart people reject religion. It's not what I'm saying. But I think when you study and when you observe, you reserve the right to see the world through a different pair of eyes. And it doesn't mean that we're wrong. It doesn't mean that y'all are right. And you get a lot of people that say, when that time comes, when he comes back, you're going to have to answer for why you didn't believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins. And my response to that is, I can't live my life in fear. I can't do it. It's not natural to me. So for those people who have issues with that, not just for me, you got other people that that may not be into religion. They may not be as vocal about it as I am, but we all know that guy who doesn't go to church, who doesn't believe the way you believe. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with him. It just means that he's a little bit different than what you think. I don't know. You guys round table that.
Well, what do you want to do, Tom? You want to go to church with me this Sunday?
I would.
You would?
Yeah.
You sure? Because, I'm probably bust with flames as soon as I walk in the door. But
we all would.
And we all would, right. The thing is, you're only going to get what your parents taught you. And you are able, not to slight Marcus, able to make your own decisions once you become of age, and therefore he made a decision to become agnostic. Whereas I grew up in a household that said, you can hang out all you want Saturday night. Sunday morning, you better be in church. And if you go to sleep in church, you better go to sleep when you get home too. So that kind of like broke me out of a lot of modes growing up as a kid. Even as a young adult, I still had that same pattern that if I can hang out all Saturday night, then I need to be in church Saturday morning. The thing is, when you practice what you preach, then it's more accessible to what you want to do in life or what you're willing to accept from a religious standpoint. Again, I say when you had that near fatal accident or that mistake at work, or you saying something like that, you are going to say, subconsciously or not, and I'm not calling Marcus out, but I'm pretty sure there have been times when he said thank you Jesus for something that has happened to him and he's overcome that problem. Again, I'm not trying to call you out.
I can assure you that I haven't. Okay. Because I don't view Jesus the way that Christians view Jesus. You get some, evangelicals and devout Baptists and all that kind of stuff who, if you say something, that they disagree with about Jesus, they'll lose their mind. Like me personally, I don't think that Jesus Christ died on the cross for everybody's sins. To me, that's a question of faith. And my faith doesn't go that way, because to me, I think logically that just, to me, doesn't make sense that this dude could walk around for all these years performing miracles and feeding all these people and doing all this cool stuff, but he couldn't keep himself from getting jacked by a bunch of dudes. Like, that to me is crazy. But, and I say it in a very simplistic way to give you an idea of what my thought process is and why I view it that way. I want to kind of take a left turn right now, and I want to introduce the newest the newest member of the Legacy Internet Radio family, who I have joining me on the live line. I got DJ Renee Melendez on the live line with us. What's going on, girl?
What's going on, fellas? How you doing?
We doing all right. It's me and Carlton Banks and Miss Tony here in the studio, and I'm glad I got you. I'm going to get your opinion on the subject that we're discussing here in a minute. But what I want to do first is I want to have you share with the listeners. I introduced you just now as the newest member of LegacyInternetRadio.com. Why don't you tell the Legacy Internet Radio listeners about the new show, what we got coming on, what's it called, when we're going to have it, what you got?
Okay, first of all, I'm excited to join the Legacy Radio family. I'm with good people right now. The name of the new show is Deep House Sessions with DJ Renee Melendez. And basically the show is just going to be 2 hours from 7 to 9 on Saturdays. Deep, soulful house music. Sometimes it might have a little gospel flavor. Sometimes it might have tribal, some disco. But it's going to have a little bit of everything for everyone. And, occasionally I might, just have a little quick, convo with one of my DJ peers that's been in the industry for a long time. And, many names people have heard. Some may be, new to your ear. But, I invite everybody to come and listen and, make sure you got your baby powder and your living room cleared out, because you're going to want things.
Yes, she did. I'm looking. Yes, she did. Call him back. Definitely excited to have you. We've been talking, you and I, for a while about trying to see if we can get this to happen. So I'm definitely happy and proud to have you. For those listeners who haven't heard the name DJ Renee Melendez, you will get used to that name. She's going to be spending with us here on LegacyInternetRadio.com starting this Saturday. Every Saturday from 7 to 9 for her music show with house music. Like she said, she's going to have other DJs joining her. So we're definitely excited and looking forward to it. Some of our longtime listeners may remember DJ Renee Melendez joined us in studio a while ago on the website we used to be on for a live show. She joined us in studio. We had a great time. So the crew has all met her, or most of the crew has met her, and she's met us. Why don't you tell Renee, the listeners, what state you repping?
Jersey. I'm repping Jersey.
That's what I'm
all
talking.
Day, every day.
That's what it is. Hey, I'm sorry I had to get it out there because I'm usually the only one that reps Jersey. And in the interest of full disclosure, Renee and I go back a very, very long time. And I've known her. She's known me since we was young people. So it's definitely an honor for me to have her join the crew. And I'm hoping that we have a long-standing relationship. Now, here's what I want to do, Renee. We've been talking here in the studio about a few things. So I'm going to keep you for the next few minutes or so. I'm going to have you roundtable with us on these last couple of things that we're getting into. You listening to the show before, we do What the Hell, so you got an idea of what we're doing, right?
Yep.
All right, here's what we just got. Carlton Banks and Miss Tony have just kind of given their opinion. I want to get yours. We've got a survey that has come out. I've gotten this from allchristiannews.com that basically says many Americans say that non-religious people are bad for America, although that number is rising. Now, before I got you on the line, I gave a whole bunch of statistics that kind of say that. But just when you hear that as a general, I'm not sure what your religious background is, and you don't have to share if you don't want to. If you want to, feel free to do so. However, the question on the floor is, non-religious people bad for America, agree or disagree?
I disagree. I think that everybody is entitled to feel their own way. If you're religious, you're spiritual, whatever it is, whatever makes you happy, I say do it. Some of the most religious people are some of the most corrupt people, just like politicians.
Right.
So I personally, I tend not to get into discussing religion with people because that to me, I feel like that's a sacred place within a person.
Right.
Whether you are a believer or not a believer, that's talking about spirituality, your belief in religion, organized religion, or whatever, or whether you just decide to, throw down a blanket in your home and get on your knees and pray, whatever. That's a sacred part of somebody. And just because people are not devout Christians or they don't believe they're atheists or whatever, they're not running to, church service every Sunday, it does not make them bad people. It just means that they choose to think, believe, and live differently than the next person who may be a believer. But me personally, I believe in God. I don't belong to a church. I teach my kids about the Bible, and that's about the extent of it. I don't even want to be a part of organized religion because it's too political. You got to keep up with the Joneses. You can't go if you're not dressed a certain way. I don't have time for that.
No, I can dig it. I can dig it.
I cannot fall into the category of, non-church related people.
Yeah, I'm like that too, and a lot of people will tell you that, the things that you cited, because I agree with you, but the things that you cited shouldn't be the reasons why you don't go. You're supposed to go for yourself. Hey, look, I get people who feel that way. My whole thing is, if it's not in your heart, then don't front. And, you get a lot of people who go because they think they need to go, or they think they're supposed to go. And I know these people. I know these people personally because I've had conversations with them. And my thing is, don't front, keep it real. If it's not in your heart, then don't go. And for those people who worried about me and my soul, don't be, because I ain't no fool. I know that man didn't make a freaking tree. You know what I'm saying? I know that man. I know that man didn't create air and water. So I know all of that stuff had to come from somewhere. We use the phrase God. And you get a lot of non-religious people and agnostics that choose not to use that word because that word comes from a religious background. So don't feel bad when those of us use the phrase the creator or the great architect of the universe and things of that sort, simply because we understand or we agree that there is a higher power, or the phrase the higher power. We get it. We all coming from a different perspective. And I think the fact that many religious people who feel that non-religious people could potentially be a problem speaks to a lot of what those of us who aren't in a religion have issues with, because quit judging. It ain't for you to judge. Mind your damn business and let the one who's supposed to be judging. Ain't no how Steppin with Marcus J. Now, I also led off the show by saying that I was going to tell y'all tonight why George Zimmerman is going home, why he's not going to be found guilty in this crime. So what I want to do, Renee, I'm going to get your opinion on the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case real quick, and then I'm going to let you go. We're going to round table with the crew, and then we're going to end the show. What's your thoughts real quick?
Well, my thoughts, I'm torn right now. As the mother of a 17-year-old child, I would hate to be Tracy Martin and Sabrina Fulton. I would hate to have to bury my child. I would hate to have to listen to that 911 call with my baby screaming in the background. However, I think that the reason why George Zimmerman may be going home is because, again, if you go back to the original start of this whole thing, before it came to the forefront in the news, the prosecution and the state didn't feel that they had enough evidence to even go to a trial to arrest him at first, because they said it seemed like it was self-defense and it seemed like it was more circumstantial evidence than anything. Now, my personal opinion, I think he's guilty as I don't know what, really. But I think that the prosecution pretty much has bungled case for them, and I think that he is going to walk. If he gets convicted, I'll be extremely surprised yet happy all in the same breath.
I can dig it. Ain't no half Steppin with Marcus J. Renee, tell us one more time the name of the show and where we can hear it.
It's Deep House Sessions with DJ Renee Melendez on Legacy Radio Saturday night from 7 to 9. Clear out the furniture and bring the baby powder.
You got it. Ain't no half Stab with Marcus J, the newest member of Legacy Internet Radio. That's DJ Renee Melendez on the live line. Renee, I'm going to let you go now. Appreciate it. You giving us a few minutes tonight, and I'll be in touch with you in a day or so, all right?
All right, take care.
All right, you got it. Ain't no half Steppin with Marcus J, live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Carlton, let me get your thoughts on the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman thing. Do you think he's going to be convicted? What's your thoughts?
I honestly have not followed it very closely, and choose not to follow it. I just want to see a verdict. I want to see a fair trial. I don't care what happens. I just want to see justice served, be it he's found guilty or not guilty. I want the man to get a fair trial. I don't care. I'm tired of it.
Okay. Tony?
I mean, of course, you want justice to prevail. Of course, there's been a lot of conflicting information that's been given, a lot of it by George Zimmerman himself. And I just hope that the jury is objective and really takes time to review all of the evidence and make the right decision.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. I want to do this. I want to read to you guys the definition of second-degree murder, which is what he's being charged with: non-premeditated killing resulting from assault in which death of the victim was a distinct possibility. Second-degree murder is different from first-degree murder, which is premeditated, intentional killing, or results from vicious crimes such as arson, rape, or armed robbery. Exact distinctions on the degree vary by state. I'm getting that from freedictionary.com, defining second-degree murder. Now, manslaughter occurs when the defendant kills with malice aforethought. Intention to kill or cause serious harm would be voluntary manslaughter, but there are mitigating circumstances which reduce culpability, or when the defendant kills only with the intent to cause serious bodily harm. Voluntary manslaughter also is different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Involuntary manslaughter is the unlawful killing of a human being without malice aforethought, either expressed or implied. It is distinguished from voluntary manslaughter by the absence of intention. It is normally divided into two categories: constructive manslaughter and criminal negligent manslaughter, both which involve criminal liability. Now, here's why I think he's going home. I think he's going home because I think he's guilty of involuntary manslaughter, which basically is the unlawful killing of a human being without malice aforethought. We can debate whether he should have followed him. We can debate, whether, he should have listened to the person on the phone. We can debate whether he racially profiled him. All that stuff we can debate. But what we can't debate is George Zimmerman got up that morning and said, "I'm going to kill Trayvon Martin." I think it's pretty obvious that he didn't do that. And I think that the prosecution was caught in a very difficult situation because they had the police department who didn't even arrest this guy. Those people just said, "You know what? Self-defense, stand your ground, go on home." When the prosecution had the widespread, people, all over the country that was like, "This is crazy, I need to do something." So once they arrested him, they felt like they had to go for the jugular. And that's when you had the second-degree murder charge. You got a lot of conflicting information. You got one mother says it's my kid on the tape, and the other mother says it's my kid on the tape. You've got one witness that says, "I thought I saw, what appeared to be Trayvon Martin on the top of George Zimmerman." You got others that said, no, George Zimmerman had injuries that don't appear to be consistent with the body, the body of Trayvon Martin. But you also know there was raining that night. So there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on with it. And I'm not saying this because I think George Zimmerman is innocent. I disagree with Carlton in the sense that I just want him to get a fair trial, and I don't care what happens. That's his opinion. That's fine. Do I want him to have a fair trial? Yeah, I do. But I also want his ass to go to jail because we know, but for him, like for me, and this is the emotional side of me. The emotional side of me says, we hear it on the tape. Are you following him? Yeah. Okay, we don't need you to do that. This is what the 911 person said. Once he decided to continue, he becomes the person that's initiating the entire encounter. And I think we forget about Trayvon Martin having the right to stand his ground. He wound up dead. He's on the phone with this girl, and he's telling the girl, he called names out of his name, and the toxicology report's going to show that he had marijuana in his system. Who cares about none of that? I mean, don't nobody care about none of that. If you had left his ass alone, he would still be here, and you would be with your family, and your life wouldn't be destroyed. Because at the end of the day, George Zimmerman's life is destroyed. Doesn't matter what happens in court. Doesn't matter if he's acquitted. Doesn't matter if he's found guilty. His life is just as over in some ways as Trayvon Martin's. The only difference is he gets to live the rest of his life here and not in the ground somewhere. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. It upsets me. And when I did my rant about this last week, I implored the people listening to stay cool, don't wild out. You know, don't be like they were in L.A. a few years ago in 1992 when they burned up L.A. because they were mad about the trial with Rodney King and those officers. I mean, at the end of the day, we have videotape that showed us that them dudes was guilty, even though they ended up walking. Obviously, it's a little bit different, you know. But one quick thing, and I know we need to get on out of here, but let me just ask this one question before we do that. We got a White House petition. I'm getting this from breakingbrown.com. We had a White House petition calling on the president to keep blacks from rioting if Zimmerman is acquitted. Now, I'm very offended by this. I am very offended by this, and I'm going to share why, but I want to get you guys' opinion on what you think about this before I share with my opinion. And the petition says, in part, there is much talk in social media of race riots should George Zimmerman be found not guilty of second-degree murder charge against him for shooting Trayvon Martin. The United States cannot bear repeat of the race riot of the 60s. It's incumbent upon President Obama to give a speech to the nation urging nonviolent response to the Zimmerman trial verdict so as to preserve peace in the land. I'm offended by that, and I will tell you why after you guys state your opinions on it. Tony, you first.
Well, I mean, that just kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that, you know, they see black people as these violent, you know, savages, and that's, you know, pretty much how we're expected to handle things. So, yeah, it is insulting, but, you know, what do we do?
Colin Banks.
It's going to be sad to see anything happen. The last big riot that I can recall was my man being dumb enough to get out the truck from the Rodney King beating. You know, that's the last big thing I remember. It's going to take place where if Zimmerman gets off, he will be sued for wrongful death, which in turn gets him just as bad from, well, I won't say that. It won't get him just as bad, but it's going to hurt him just as bad as going to jail. Yes, he gets to live here, but you know the family at least has something where they can get him, trial him on something, and get some type of reparations. Because already the community has settled a lawsuit out of court with them, so it stands to reason that he gets off on this, then they're going to get him on that. My problem right now is the prosecution, from the little bit that I have read, was not very diligent in doing some of the things that they needed to do regarding going after George Zimmerman. I mean, the whole thing is, dude, stay your ass in the damn car.
At the end of the day, he was overcharged. I think he was overcharged because the prosecution was overzealous, but I also think they did a poor job of preparing their witnesses, most notably his friend Rachel, whose last name is Gentile, I think it is. You know, I don't want to make this an indictment on the prosecution, because the original question that I put out there is the petition that they put on the desk of the president to make a speech and appeal to black people to not riot in the street, which I don't know that we would have that same petition on the desk of George Bush or Ronald Reagan or Richard Nixon, you know. So I just think that we need to pay more attention to, you know, what I like to point out as obvious examples of racist behavior. We got a black president. You need to keep your people in line, black president, and tell them don't be acting stupid in the streets. Did nobody do that in 1992 when George Bush the first was the president? Because I think that was a more incendiary situation when we saw what happened on the tape, and we knew that, you know, of course, with the race riots of the 60s, we had the same backdrop that we got now. You know, 21 years after the LA riots, same backdrop. You know, the only difference is, you know, we don't have no tape. You know, you have black people that's riled up about Zimmerman versus Trayvon, you know, obviously. But I said earlier on, you know, I'm just as mad when Pookie kills Pookie. So just keep that in mind, people. I know that we talk about how, you know, I always say that I'm not afraid to talk race, and I'm not, you know, but those of you who are afraid to talk about race, I think you need to let it go, because the reality is we'll never get past the kind of way we treat each other bad if we turn a blind eye when it's so obvious. Marcus J. Ain't no half step with Carlton Banks and Miss Tony. We're going to take our final break of the night. It's going to be very, very brief, continuing with the hip-hop samples. Got a little Ghetto Boy, a little Donny Hathaway. That's for UK Dub. I know that's your dude. Marcus J. Ain't no half stepping. Be back in 60 seconds.
Playing in the ghetto.